So the Sixers are 6-1 after beating the Celtics. That's after the trade for James Harden. And it does feel like history continues to repeat itself in the NBA, right? When you have these massive trades for one player, the team that executes the massive trade more immediately is better off. How many times do we see it last year with Brooklyn when they dealt away Kevin Durant and they felt like they were a better regular season team? Meanwhile, his new team, the Clippers, fell to Brooklyn last night. And he's been seen going out to a club afterwards. It didn't look like it was a strip club. It was more just hanging out, singing songs and whatever, which you're allowed to do. I'm not going to sit here and be that guy. It's like, oh, James Harden went out and okay. But the Clippers did lose 100-93, and most of the it was really more in the second half. He looks, stop me if you heard this before, out of shape. He just looks off. And I'll give him a bit of a pass because didn't have preseason. You know, the regular season started without him, was traded, new system, whatever. But at some point, and this relates to another story tonight, he's 34 years old. So I was watching, let me see if I can combine these two things, and you guys see if it makes sense to you, okay? So LeBron James last night and the LA Lakers lost to the Rockets. And what I said to you, Jay Stu, I believe to be true, which is nothing signifies that LeBron is 39 years old more than, you know, if you go back to when he's in his early to mid-30s and definitely his 20s, he didn't need an Anthony Davis healthy. AD didn't play last night to beat the Rockets. The Rockets are better than last year, but let's not act like they're a great team. You almost feel like you put LeBron out there with anybody and you give him a chance. They didn't have a chance last night. And look, I'm not giving him a pass. I'm just telling you the reality is he's still a very, very productive and effective player. Sometimes a great player. Sometimes he's just really good. But he's 39 years old and he can no longer carry a team on his own the way he could for 15 years in the NBA. So, right? But LeBron James at 39 is, well, I mean, that's like James Harden at 32, 33. Because Harden, unlike James, didn't take care of his body. One, Harden was never as good as LeBron James. Two, he's never in as good a shape as LeBron James. And when you're consistently running in and out of shape, it's like Carmelo Anthony. You age before your time. You age before your time. People who carry an excessive amount of weight in life do this. Right? Then oftentimes they lose the weight. You know, they get to like 50 and they're like, man, I really got to lose my weight. I got all my everything checked, all of my blood taken and whatever. And when I did, I went and got healthy, and, 6 months later, you lose 25 pounds, you feel great, but your knees still hurt. Your hips still hurt. Why? Well, because you carried that weight too long. And even though you're not currently carrying it, there's years and years of attrition. That's what Harden's going through. He'll eventually get into shape. But the reason that he's probably never going to have that burst again was he's fallen out of shape too often. He's 34 now. Do I think it can still work? I do. Because he doesn't have to be their best player. He doesn't have to be their second best player. But they're probably one traditional shooting guard or something away from competing at the top of the league. You have P.J. Tucker. He's a little past his prime. I don't know. Terrence Mann just now coming back. Norman Powell, Bones Highland, like these guys they're like one legit, because ideally you bring Russell Westbrook off the bench or you play Russell Westbrook with the bench players with a bunch of shooters around him. But when you have two guys that function much better with the ball in their hands and they're not even your two stars, I don't like the makeup of the Clippers. Does that make sense? Does the parallel make sense to you, Dan, that I'm comparing a 39-year-old LeBron James who can no longer do it, even though he's taking care of his body and the greatness of his career lasts longer, to the 34-year-old, hey, he can't be the same guy, and he's out of shape as well.
Yeah, I think like on Harden's case, there's like three stages of different stuff. Like LeBron can't carry, so you need AD. And Harden's situation is it's not only of how much he had the ball in his hands, it's what he still wants to do while feeding. I mean, it was difficult for him, as we've seen in some clips, to play with Chris Paul. Now you've got Paul George, Kawhi Leonard trying to fit him in, and it's just, yeah, I think there's like about three stages of just not and not even of him getting in shape. It just, the LeBron thing is, and I don't want to toss everything to early season game, but I don't even know if they have Anthony Davis. Maybe if last night's game is theirs, maybe it's just one of those early November games. But I just think that there's so many levels for the Clippers to try to make this thing work out with James Harden that it's going to be extremely difficult.
What do you think, Jace, too?
Of James Harden, this is the reason why I thought this topic today was interesting. The addition by subtraction thing, and that you could tell by the way Joel Embiid is talking after games about chemistry and symmetry and all this stuff, or synergy, or whatever word you want to use, that it's just running a little bit smoother there. You know, coming off those comments from a couple of weeks ago about James Harden saying that I don't run in a system, I am the system, or whatever he was saying.
I am a system. Yeah.
I just think that Embiid is kind of speaking to all that. Like, maybe you were the system, but the system is gone, and it seems like there is more lubrication among the team. Everyone likes a little lubrication. It just makes things a little bit easier and smoother, and I think it's because James Harden is out of the picture. You guys get that analogy? Or
Yeah. No, the addition, we've seen this happens all the time in the NBA. You know, Pelicans are an example. Now, look, the Pelicans they didn't win a championship the way the Lakers won a championship, but they're a far better all-around franchise since they made that trade. It was the Shohei Ohtani argument, right? Like, you get a bunch of different pieces. Go ahead, Dan.
You know, this is my point, and we've talked about how exhausting the NBA can be. And I thought about this last night because Giannis got kicked out against the Pistons, and Dame comes back and saves the day, and they end up winning. But in terms of this league and where it is, it's this balance of, okay, James Harden's been in LA for what, a week? Mm-hmm. And now we're breaking down this matchup on how he fits. But it's, where is the point where it becomes an issue? You know, like in a way, I almost feel like it's nitpicking of Harden and the Clippers. In the same breath with the Sixers are not going to do anything that would make anybody here or anybody listening change their opinion until they do it in April and May.
Sure.
So this dynamic duo of Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid is great, but if they get ousted in the Eastern Conference semifinals, it doesn't matter. You know, and that's like, you know, my battle with it. Like, it's great, and you have Tobias Harris, and Kelly Oubre Jr. has been really good for Philadelphia. And you hope Nick Nurse can make a change and change those playoff fortunes. You know, but at what point does this become an issue, and at what point does this become, or does it just continue to be an early season sort of, you know, just getting the kinks out sort of thing? And I think this is what makes the NBA so exhausting.
I agree with you. And it's a really good point. It's actually the point I told to Jason, which is, this is a move for the playoffs, not for the regular season.
Yeah.
All these teams are better in the regular season. But it's still interesting to see, you know, Harden and what, like, playing yourself into shape. I know Shaq did it. Guys can do it. But it can be a dangerous thing, because when you're carrying that extra weight, that's when you get hurt. And he just looks like he looks like he's full after a Thanksgiving meal. Right? He doesn't look like rotund, but he looks like he's definitely not his best version of himself. And I know how it works in an NBA season. You play so many games, you lose a bunch of weight, you're traveling. But I don't know, man. And then I look at that roster, and I do think at some point you become so depleted by making so many moves that top heavy roster we see with the Suns now, we saw with the Brooklyn Nets.
Mm-hmm.
At some point you can only play 5 and only one guy can shoot the ball. Regular season you're going to need 9. Playoffs you're going to need 7 or 8, but it's got to be the right mix. And I don't think they have 7 or 8. I think they have 3, maybe 4. And that limits what I think. Like, I like Bones Highland come out the bench because, he just went off the bench scores.
Yeah.
And they're playing without Plumlee right now because he's hurt. And he's a good backup big. And then they got a bunch of other stuff. But their starters, like Russell Westbrook, you have to watch him in person or watch him intently and understand. Like, he can.
Sure.
His stats look way better than the actual performance. And he does some great things. But he gives the ball to guys in weird spots. He misses a ton of layups. He doesn't have what they call gravity, so you're helping off him. He'll jump up and knock down a big shot, but he'll miss plenty of others.
I just get exhausted. Like,
I do.
Anthony Edwards is such a story for Minnesota and what he's done. And I know that Anthony Edwards doesn't carry it. And I think that Philadelphia's success early on without Harden is a story. But this also just then goes back to the NBA's, this same conversation that we have today, we could have on December 9th.
Yeah, and we had it on the Suns and the Nets in their trade last year.
Yeah.
No question.
And that's not meant to say anything about show topic. It's what the NBA is. And that's, that's like part of the issue. The Nuggets are 8-1. They kind of almost gave it away last night against the Warriors, but there are new pieces in there. I know that stuff's not sexy to talk about, but that is something. We talked about Wembanyama yesterday. That's going to be a story throughout this season, and it's new and fresh. And I just feel like
he looked worn down last night.
Yeah, against the Knicks.
Yeah. Shot an air ball. Didn't look. It's a lot. Like, it's a lot. He played at a high level in France, but not like this in the NBA, not with the level of physicality and attention as well.
If just one more quick thing, if James Harden completely turns it around, let's just say in 2 weeks, are we changing our opinion of him, or are we changing our opinion of the Clippers?
My opinion of the Clippers is I think they're close. I'm not sure there is a perfect team. It's like, I think the Nuggets starting lineup is better, but they don't have a bench. And especially no Bruce Brown this year. I think they're the best, but they're like one injury away. Right now they're playing without Jamal Murray. I don't think the Warriors have the size. No rim protection. They have no size. The Clippers, I think it's a depth thing. And then I think it's they can all, outside of Westbrook, shoot some, but I don't know if they have a quote unquote shooter, and they don't have a shooting big. They don't have a shoot. I get, unless you play Kawhi at the 5, which they never have. You go through and they're all on some level flawed.